We found out about that dim oaf Prince Andrew's propensity, his tendency for forging friendships with ill-advised people when it emerged that he was a close buddy of well-known paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But also he had a friendship with a guy called Yang Tengbo. He was a Chinese businessman, or he is a Chinese businessman, but he was also a Chinese spy. I'm sure Andrew didn't know that. Through his friendship with Andrew, through business connections, he ran Andrew's pitch at the Palace operation over in China. He managed to get to meet Prime Ministers David Cameron and Theresa May, and managed to mingle in the highest echelons of Britain's political class. So his tentacles ran deep. Now, he was banned from the country a couple of years ago. He appealed against this, and the appeal failed. The Home Office banned him from the UK after MI5 deemed him an espionage agent in, and I quote, covert and deceptive activity on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. OK, so he's banned. He can't come back. Good. Silly Prince Andrew, of course. So that one's over and done. We're safe. Well, we're not. It turns out that Yang Tengbo has not been removed from Britain's corporate register and remains a director of 6 British companies. Am I missing something, or is this not a good thing? Let's talk to international security expert, friend of the show, friend of the channel, Will Geddes. Welcome, Will.
Good evening, Kev. Thanks for inviting me on.
This makes me think that this country doesn't take security seriously.
Well, we do, but one of the problems that we have is some of our legislation, Kev, and really what this comes down to is the UK Companies Act of 2006, which allows very many legitimate foreign directors to be directors of UK companies. But having said that, it is something which is a very, very typical tradecraft for foreign state actors to embed themselves into the community of the country that they want to undertake surveillance on, or try and influence or gather intelligence in some shape or form.
Let's talk about Yang Tengbo. As they said, he's a spy, and people were saying the name is Tengbo. Yang Tengbo. It doesn't quite have the same ring as James Bond, does it? But you'll recognise this in an amateur fashion. I kind of admire his skill. He managed to wangle his way into the highest political levels using useful idiot Prince Andrew. I mean, he operated in a classic way of a man involved in a kind of espionage, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. And you touched on probably one of the most valuable points, which is about utilizing and exploiting and recruiting useful idiots, and especially those that are in the higher echelons of society or in commerce or in trade in some shape or form. Now, one thing that we do know about the Chinese intelligence agencies, MSS in particular, is that their skills are in stealing foreign intellectual property. So some of that unique data or designs or proprietary trading data, which they can then duplicate or they can exploit by various different means to create economic espionage. And this works on many areas. And Tengbo is a perfect example of a very long, slow burn, long fuse espionage operation, where it's taken a little while. You go in at the right level. He probably met a number of people before he actually connected with Prince Andrew, but it's garnishing the respect, the credibility, the affability, if you like, with those individuals, and it's cultivating them to then be introduced to other people. And as you say, it was this palace initiative of trying to drive business into China, which was a perfect opportunity for them to exploit.
Now, the Business and Trade Committee chairman in Parliament, Labour MP Liam Byrne, he's written to Companies House to ask why 50-year-old Tengbo's directorships are still active. And he's got a reply saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, don't we need to look at these laws and maybe repeal them so that people like Tengbo, you know, a spy, can't remain a director of 6 British companies? It seems to me sort of pretty elemental and ridiculous.
Well, there are 2 sides to that coin, Kev. There's the side which you're absolutely right. We don't want foreign agents being able to establish or be participant in businesses in the UK and have that legitimate cover, if you like. But there's the second side of it, and I would say, no doubt this is being addressed with Companies House and perhaps at a legislative level, if you like. Once the security services, once MI5 have rinsed all the intelligence they can about what these businesses were, who were connected to these businesses, where's the money coming from, where's money being generated, because that can be quite fruitful in establishing other agents who might be connected in this country, who may be sleeper agents that may not necessarily be directly involved in the company, but may be beneficiaries of dividends. They may be perhaps engaged as suppliers, or they could be clients. There could be all sorts of things. So, you know, there are some benefits to allowing it to play out for a little bit, but once it's played out, there should be a capacity to be able to just strike them off as one would with any other individual that shouldn't be running a company in this country.
How much of a threat is China to Britain in this respect? How many other Yang Tengbos are operating as we speak, do you think?
Enormous amounts, Kev. A lot more than you might imagine. You know, it's embedding into the UK when we know, whereas with other state actors, they will want to be participant in much more sort of volatile, visceral, tactical operations. The one thing we know about China is they are very much about the economic espionage. It's about understanding what makes our business and commerce and industry tick, becoming engaged in some shape or form as investors, or even embedding themselves as employees within these companies. So, and there's a lot of it going on, Kevin. They've been doing it for a long period of time. They've been playing this very long game for a considerable amount of time.
And obviously playing it with some panache and skill. Do we do the same to them, Will? Do we have people, you know, British Yang Tengbos over in Beijing operating in a similar fashion, you know, inveigling themselves into the higher echelons of Chinese society?
Well, it would be naive to say that we wouldn't, Kev. However, it does depend on the culture, and it depends on the country itself and how friendly they are to foreign nationals or to Brits, for example. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the Far East. I spent a lot of time in China, in Hong Kong. You know, we'll still be referred to as the Guilo or the foreign devil in many regards, and perhaps won't
or was that just you?
It could have been just me, Kev.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, have we got a handle on China's activities, or is it spiralling out of control? We spoke at the beginning of this conversation. I said, do we take security seriously? You said we did. But if we have all these Chinese spies operating like Tengbo, are we taking it seriously enough?
Well, we're taking it as seriously as we possibly can. But I think where the big failure here is with Prince Andrew's courtiers or his secretaries that are around him, and the introductions that are made to Prince Andrew should be more thoroughly vetted, I would have hoped, and that they would have been tested out. And certainly engagement with the security services, they may choose to be engaged or they may choose not to and just remain in the shadows and observe either at close distance or from afar. But really, to go to your point you just made, Kev, it's a bigger problem than we perhaps have truly established. I think we speculate that it's a big problem, and I think it's again realistic to speculate it's a big problem. But it's ensuring that they can't get into certain key infrastructures in business, in government, and otherwise, to prevent them being able to influence those areas. And remember, influencing can come from extortion, blackmail, all sorts of other areas.
Will, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on.